Hi, I'm Dr. Anna Lane.
And I'm Dr. David Lane.
We're going to talk today about the difference between encouragement and praise, the importance of using encouragement as you parent your children, and some of the pitfalls of using praise.
So let's start with the big picture. Encouragement encourages, see what I did there? Encourages what's called an internal locus of control. Praise is an external locus of control. And the problem with external locus of control is that it's not realistic for life. You don't constantly get praise externally. You do sometimes. You win the game, you get praised. You have a good performance at your concert, you get praise. And it's kind of artificial, and it's very short-lived. Many of you probably got a box of trophies in the attic or in the basement or back of some closet somewhere. That's an example of external praise, where it was nice in the moment, but then kind of the new wore off of it, is how we used to say. Got the new wore off of that toy. He's not interested anymore, and that's kind of what happens with praise. It's not lasting. It's not sustaining. And it tends to promote a desire to have external validation of the things that you do. And long-term in life doesn't work like that. We don't get constantly praised and external validation for what we do at work. Once you're into your job and into your career, we frequently don't get it at school. If for folks who are still in school, sometimes you do, but not generally. So frequently, I've had some jobs in my life where the best day you could have is if they just left you alone and ignored you and let you go do your thing, and because they were interfering and they were criticizing the rest of the time. So it was good when they would leave you alone. And if I had been dependent on external praise to do anything or to get my job done, or if I had that expectation, I would have been in a heap of trouble. And so we want to teach our children to have an internal motivator where they are able to appraise what they're doing, see if it's right or wrong, appraise what they're doing, see if it is adequate to the task, appraise what they're doing, see if it is their best effort, see if they're giving their best effort in whatever it is that they're trying. And so I, as a parent, want to teach them how to internalize that thing. But you run into some conflicts, because when they're little, up to about 9 or 10, they really want to please you. They desperately want to please you. Almost every kid in the world really wants to approval of their parent or the caregiver. And so you have to, at that point, be giving them some external stuff, but at the same time encouraging them to think about what they're doing in an internal way, such as your child picks up the living room like you asked. They were playing some games in the living room or something. And you ask them, all right, now that you're done, pick the living room up real quick for us and put everything back where it goes. And they do that. It's good for you to say, good job. I appreciate you doing that. Some external praise. Then you might add, how do you feel about the job you did? What are your thoughts about the job that you did? And solicit some feedback, process it with them, talk it through with them. And we're back to all of these things that we talk about as parenting require a great deal of effort from the parents. The parents have to have a conscious think about it all the time. What am I teaching my child? What do I want my child to learn here? And if I want them to learn how to be good decision makers, number one, in life, and I want them to learn how to do a self-evaluation that has some meaning, then I encourage them to think about whatever job that they did, whatever activity that they participated. How did you feel you did? They bring home a grade on a test from school, and they just weren't happy with it. Okay, talk to me about it. Did you do the best that you could? Have them evaluate it. Do you think that this was your best effort? And sometimes they'll frankly tell you, no, I don't think I was ready for the test. I didn't understand oh, okay. What could you do next time so that you don't feel like this anymore? That's engendering a processing in them. I don't want to feel like this anymore. Therefore, I will do the things that are necessary so that I don't have to feel like this anymore. And that's a valuable life lesson as well. We interact in this world, And sometimes we make mistakes. We feel guilty for the mistake. Well, guilt is a good internal processing mechanism because it's a good motivator. I can learn from mistakes that I've made, and I feel guilty about. And I don't want to do that again. And so the lesson that I learn is, okay, I will be better prepared, or I won't make that same mistake a second time, or I will think this through a lot better before I make the steps that led me to this bad thing that happened the other time ago, so that I don't have to feel bad about it anymore. That's the encouragement factor that becomes built into me. So your children are 0 to 9; they desperately want your approval, and it's good to give them your approval, to give them some praise and pat them on the head and give them a hug, tell them they did great, you're really proud of them, those kind of things. But then you also say they're struggling with something, and you give encouragement instead of praising them. I'll get you an ice cream when you're done. No, no, no. You don't want to reward lots of behaviors that they need to be doing anyway. You say to them, I've seen you handle tougher problems. I'm absolutely 100% confident that you can do this. It's no question in my mind that you can do this. I know that you've got what it takes to do this. You know how smart you are. Why are you worried about being able to work these math problems? I know how smart you are. You know how smart you are. I've seen you do stuff like this before. You encourage them to keep going. You encourage them to keep tackling the difficult stuff, because it turns out that life is a lot of difficult stuff. And the sooner that I'm able to encourage myself, and I'm able to stick to something and persevere through the problem, then the sooner that I become able to overcome adversity. And we know what the Bible says about adversity. It builds character and builds hope, and hope never fails. And so I'm teaching my children all those important life lessons by encouraging them, by telling them, by focusing on their strengths. I know how smart you are. I know you can do this. I've seen you overcome difficulties before. I've seen you deal with tough situations. Yeah, I remember last Thursday you had a big truckload of homework, and you managed to get it done. It wasn't any fun, but you managed to get it done, and you'll be able to do it this time too. So let's let's get busy. And you provide that encouragement so that they hear the voice that they hear inside is you saying, you can do that. Daddy believes I can do it. So I think I can do it too. And so then next week, then they don't need my voice to hear that. They just hear the voice inside saying, I can do this. It's not going to be any fun, but I can do this. And it turns out that's an extraordinarily important life lesson, because I don't know if y'all have noticed, but life frequently throws you stuff that ain't a whole lot of fun. And so the sooner we learn how to deal with that and overcome that adversity through that inner motivation, that inner encouraging voice, then the better off we're going to be.
The other pitfall of praise is it tends to tie self-concept to performance. So if I achieve the thing that I'm working on, if I score the touchdown, or I make the A, or I get a good feedback on a project, then I feel good about myself. But if I don't, then I feel bad about myself. And to have your concept of yourself tied to some external factor leaves you, I would describe it like a kite without an anchor, or anything that's tossed to and fro by every wave that comes along. No matter what happens, I am vulnerable. My self-concept is vulnerable to the external world. And we don't want to teach our kids that either. We want them to know who they are, to be confident in their understanding of themselves and who they are, and not rely on external feedback or external input to validate them or value them. You want them to feel valued for who they are, not what they do. Unfortunately, a lot of other messages from the world tend to be very much, you are valued based on what you do.
How you look.
Yeah.
Yes. How you perform.
Right. How you perform. And so we want to counteract that, because that's not how God looks at us. That's not how he deals with us in terms of, well, if you check all the boxes, then you're approved of. No, he loves us for who we are. And we want our kids to learn that and to experience that from us and to know that. So we give them encouragement. I have confidence in you. I am quite certain that you are capable. I know that you gave it your best shot. I know that you did everything you could do in that situation to make the best out of it. I'm sure you put your whole heart into it. Those are some examples of some encouraging statements we can make even when our children are not successful. The outcome isn't what they wanted. And that way, their self concept maintains based on an internal process instead of being destroyed by some external force.
And dependent on the whims of everybody else in the world around them.
Mhm.
I think it was our oldest came home from school one day, and he had not done well on a test. And he had, I think it was a C plus. And this was a kid that graduated high school ultimately with like a 4.2 GPA because he took AP classes, etc. But he came home, he made a C plus on this one test. And he was so upset. And we processed it with him. Oh, tell us what the upset's about. Well, I just didn't do well on the test. I don't know why I didn't get. Well, let's talk about that. Did you give it 100%? Yeah, I tried my best. I worked on it really hard. I just didn't quite understand it. Oh, well, then there's lots of things that we're going to run into that we just don't understand. What can we do when that happens? Well, I could probably go talk to the teacher. Yep, that's a good plan A. What else might you do if you just don't understand something? Well, maybe some of my friends understand it. I could see if they could help me figure out what it is that I don't understand. Great plan B. Are you willing to do that tomorrow? Yeah, I'll go do that tomorrow. Well, what we want you to learn from this is if you do the very best you can, sometimes it doesn't turn out exactly like you hoped it would, but it needs to be good enough that you did the very best that you could. Next time, you can do something else to try to achieve a different outcome, but let it be okay that you did the best that you could and not worry that you didn't get an A plus on this particular assignment. And he seemed to learn and grow from that tremendously. It seemed like a really good intervention. And, some of you may have come from families where you get a 98 on the test. Why is this not 100? And that's like Donna was talking about, one of the pitfalls. It's never going to be good enough if you're dependent on somebody else validating you. It's never going to be good enough because there's always going to be somebody better. I don't care who you are. There's somebody better. Mm-hmm. And so the ideal to help your children learn is how to regulate themselves internally and provide good self-motivation and provide the reinforcers for themselves without having to depend on somebody else. And Bear had a comment.
He decided he wanted to be heard today. Yeah. So you're using both encouragement and praise when they are young and say 9. As they get older, you turn more and more toward encouragement, rely more and more on encouragement, because as they get older, you want to increase that internalization of their own giving of validation to themselves and their own analysis of themselves. All right. So that's the encouragement versus praise conversation. We will be back with more of the top 10 most effective parenting strategies. See you then.